Beneath the veil of shallow tropical seas, where sunlight dances in kaleidoscopic patterns across coral rubble and soft silt, there lies a danger so well hidden it escapes the notice of even the most seasoned divers. Amidst broken shells, pebbled patches, and coral debris, the stonefish disappears, its warty skin and mottled color blending perfectly into the ocean floor. It does not swim. It does not flee. It waits, motionless, anchored in ambush not for prey but for its own protection. And if a human foot comes down upon it, the sea stops being a place of wonder. It becomes a theater of agony. The stonefish, Synancea verrucosa, is one of the most venomous fish on Earth. Along its dorsal surface, buried just beneath a thin layer of skin and muscle, are 13 stout, needle-like spines. Each one is connected to a pair of venom glands loaded with a toxic cocktail designed not to kill, but to maim, rapidly and without mercy. When pressure is applied, such as the weight of a human stepping down, the spine punctures tissue and releases venom deep into muscle. The effects are immediate and unforgiving. Searing pain erupts through the limb like fire chasing the veins. Victims often describe the experience not merely as painful, but unbearable. Some report losing consciousness, others begging for amputation, and in severe cases slipping into cardiovascular shock. The pain is not short-lived. Swelling soon follows, as localized tissue begins to hemorrhage and necrotize. Paralysis can set in if venom disperses systemically. In children or the immunocompromised, this encounter can be fatal. In remote areas, where anti-venom and intensive care are hours away, the stonefish does not need to move an inch to kill. It is, in every sense of the word, a passive executioner. But the stonefish is not malicious. Its venom is defensive, not predatory. It does not chase swimmers or hunt aggressively. It merely survives in the chaos of coral reefs by vanishing into the substrate. Evolution has shaped it not for pursuit, but for patience. Its body is squat and heavily armored, with ridged flanks and a bony head that presses flat into the seabed. Tiny eyes, nearly imperceptible among its growth-like protrusions, scan upward for the flicker of movement from above. When feeding, it employs a different kind of ambush, vacuuming small fish or shrimp into its mouth in a fraction of a second, faster than the human eye can follow. But this predatory side is secondary to its real survival tactic. Don't be seen, don't be touched. And therein lies the danger for humans. The very adaptations that protect the stonefish, camouflage, stillness, concealment, also render it nearly impossible to detect. On shallow reef flats and muddy estuaries where locals wade or tourists snorkel, the stonefish can sit in a tide pool only inches deep, indistinguishable from the surrounding rock. Unlike venomous snakes or wasps, there is no warning hiss or flash of color. There is only your foot, the sudden puncture, and the delayed realization that something ancient and unyielding has retaliated from beneath. The biological design of its venom delivery system is another marvel of evolutionary engineering. The spines are not hollow but grooved, acting like channels for venom to be forced through once the glands contract. Unlike a hypodermic needle, which pierces and withdraws, these spines are barbed and thick, often causing mechanical injury in addition to envenomation. The venom itself contains a complex blend of neurotoxins, cytotoxins, and cardiotoxins, triggering pain pathways, cellular destruction, and circulatory stress simultaneously. These compounds are not always well understood. Some degrade quickly outside the body, making them difficult to study, but their effects are unmistakable in the field. They disable, deter, and teach a lesson no predator forgets. Curiously, not all victims are human. Some larger marine predators, such as sharks or groupers, have been observed avoiding areas frequented by stonefish, indicating a learned or even instinctual aversion. Others, like sea snakes or certain rays, are among the rare few known to feed on them, using tactics to avoid the dorsal spines entirely. These ecological relationships emphasize the stonefish's dual role, a predator of the small and a defensive barrier against the large. For those navigating reef systems in the Indo-Pacific, especially barefoot or unaware, the stonefish represents a hidden cost of beauty. Its presence speaks to the brutal honesty of nature's defenses, that survival often depends not on speed or strength, but on the art of disappearing until provoked. In the shallow calm, where danger seems least likely, the ocean has placed a trap, alive, ancient, and painfully effective. And so, the stonefish waits. No sound, no movement, just venom, stone, and the knowledge that in the natural world, the most dangerous things are not always chasing you. Sometimes they're already under your feet. In the warm, shimmering shallows of the Indo-Pacific, where the water glows with an unnatural turquoise clarity, and the seafloor rolls in lazy patterns of sand and coral rubble, danger does not always approach with jaws and speed. Sometimes it drifts. Unseen, unannounced, it moves like a whisper through the tide, translucent, barely distinguishable from the water itself. The box jellyfish, Chironex fleckeri, is a spectre in motion, a creature so ethereal in appearance that it resembles a floating thought more than a body. But this ghost does not haunt the ocean. It rules it, with a venom so potent that it bypasses the warning systems of the human nervous system and heads straight for the heart. The bell of a box jellyfish measures about the size of a basketball, though its visual footprint in the water is far smaller due to its transparency. 4 edges define its cube-shaped bell, a geometric form in a world that favors soft curves, giving it a strange rigidity as it pulses gently through the water. Along each of the 4 corners, trailing from the sub-umbrella edge, dangle up to 15 tentacles, each one capable of stretching more than 3 meters in length. These tentacles, ghostly filaments seemingly spun from liquid glass, are studded with millions of microscopic stinging cells known as conidocytes. Within each lies a tightly coiled nematocyst, a barbed venom-tipped harpoon loaded under high osmotic pressure, primed to fire the instant it detects contact. When a swimmer, unaware of its presence, brushes against one of these trailing threads, the response is immediate and mechanical, not controlled by nerves or intent, but by water pressure and chemical cues. Thousands of nematocysts erupt simultaneously, firing their barbs through skin, clothing, even wetsuits. The venom they deliver is a complex biochemical weapon, attacking multiple systems at once. Within seconds, the pain begins, not as a surface sting, but as a deep, burning agony that spreads like wildfire along the limb. Victims often describe it as if their nerves are being torn apart from within. Skin erupts in whip-like welts, flesh begins to blister, and the cardiovascular system launches into chaos. This is not simply pain for pain's sake. The venom contains toxins that perforate cell membranes, disrupt potassium channels, and induce the sudden collapse of blood pressure. In some cases, cardiac arrest can occur within 2 to 3 minutes of contact, before the swimmer even makes it back to shore. The box jellyfish's venom is not a passive deterrent. It is an aggressive, biologically engineered mechanism for stopping prey immediately. In evolutionary terms, this is a necessity. Jellyfish are slow, fragile animals. Their best chance at feeding lies in paralyzing their quarry, small fish, crustaceans, before they have a chance to wriggle free or alert others. The venom ensures there is no struggle, just paralysis, shutdown, and absorption. But humans are not its target. Our size, physiology, and surface area make us accidental victims, far too large to be consumed, yet highly susceptible to the system the jellyfish has perfected over millions of years, and therein lies the horror. We are collateral damage, blindsided by a predator that did not intend to hunt us, and one that offers no visible warning until it's far too late. The sting itself can be deadly, but sometimes it is what follows that leaves the deepest scars. Irukandji syndrome, a delayed neurotoxic response linked to stings from certain box jellyfish species, introduces a second wave of suffering. Victims experience muscle cramps, nausea, sweating, psychological symptoms like impending doom, and a skyrocketing heart rate. It can begin half an hour after the sting and last for days, even with hospital care. Survivors describe it as the most intense, prolonged pain they've ever felt, one that painkillers struggle to dull. There are documented cases of victims begging medical staff to end their lives during the height of the symptoms. Not because they believe they will die, but because the pain has destroyed all sense of reality. The danger does not end with death. Even detached tentacles can still sting, sometimes hours after separation. Even jellyfish washed up on shorelines, their bells collapsed and drying in the sun, can retain functional nematocysts, triggered by the barest touch of a foot or hand. The ocean, it seems, remembers. Ecologically, the box jellyfish plays a vital but seldom appreciated role. As both predator and prey, it helps regulate populations of small fish and invertebrates, while also serving as food for sea turtles and a few resistant species of fish. Its biology is ancient, older than fish, older than reptiles, older than bones. It is a lineage refined not for conquest, but for perfection within a narrow band of needs, drifting, hunting, reproducing. It has no brain, no centralized nervous system, and yet it processes light and dark through clusters of simple eyes, some capable of forming crude images. It orients towards shorelines and pulses its way through estuaries and lagoons, timing its appearance with seasonal currents, water temperatures, and lunar cycles. These behaviors make certain months of the year, particularly during Australia's stinger season from October to May, especially hazardous for swimmers and beachgoers. Nets are deployed, vinegar stations are installed, warnings are posted. But the ocean is not a controllable space, and the box jellyfish, with its combination of transparency, silence, and lethality, is a reminder that not everything dangerous wears a fin. From a scientific perspective, studying its venom has yielded insights into pain pathways, heart regulation, and potential antivenoms. Researchers analyze how its toxins interact with cellular receptors, hoping to develop therapies not only for stings, but for heart failure and neurological conditions. In this way, even as it terrifies, it teaches. Yet for those who have felt the sting, for the swimmer pulled ashore unconscious, or the child lifted from shallow surf with welts curling across their limbs, the box jellyfish is not a curiosity. It is a haunting, not because it chased them or attacked in anger, but because it wasn't supposed to be there, because the water was clear and calm and beautiful, and something invisible turned paradise into trauma. The ocean does not roar when it is most dangerous. It whispers, and in those whispers, carried by the tide and lit by the sun, a ghost floats, elegant, ancient, and armed with a sting that outpaces fear. In the warm, placid waters that fringe tropical coastlines from the Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific, where coral reefs breathe with tidal rhythm and the current shifts like silk over submerged ledges, a sleek, ribbon-like figure glides through the sea. It coils effortlessly through the liquid medium, undulating its flattened tail with the fluidity of a ribbon pulled by invisible wind. This is no fish, nor eel, nor myth. It is the sea snake, a lineage of serpents that left land behind and took to the sea with an elegance and lethality that rivals the most refined predators on Earth. And while it may lack the theatrics of sharks or the horror movie reputation of jellyfish, the sea snake may be the single most chemically efficient killer in the ocean. A creature whose venom is not designed to chase you, but to stop you. The evolution of the sea snake is one of the most radical adaptations in vertebrate history. Descended from terrestrial elapids, the same group that includes cobras and mambas, sea snakes have transformed their anatomy to suit the constraints and freedoms of marine life. Their nostrils are valved, capable of sealing shut underwater. Their lungs are elongated, stretching the length of the body to maximize oxygen retention, and their skins are semi-permeable to allow for minor gas exchange through the scales, a rudimentary form of aquatic respiration that supplements their long dives. Some species, like Hydrophis belcheri, can stay submerged for up to 2 hours before surfacing for air. But none of these features are what make them feared. That distinction belongs to what they carry inside. Sea snake venom, drop for drop, is among the most toxic biological substances on the planet. It contains a blend of neurotoxins, myotoxins, and cytotoxins, evolved to act swiftly and irreversibly. A single bite can carry enough venom to kill several adult humans. And yet, despite this, sea snakes are not aggressive. They do not pursue prey like wolves or sting at the slightest touch like wasps. They are deliberate, often docile when unprovoked, and largely indifferent to human presence. This paradox, extreme lethality paired with calm temperament, makes encounters all the more disarming. Many divers have found themselves face to face with one, only to be met with what appears to be curiosity. The snake may circle, approach, or even brush past exposed skin, not in hostility, but as if investigating an anomaly in its environment. But when it does bite, when the thin, fixed fangs manage to puncture skin, the effects are not immediate. There is no blinding pain, no eruption of swelling, no obvious trauma. The bite may be painless, barely noticeable. The danger lies in what happens next. The venom begins to work beneath the surface, disrupting the synaptic junctions between nerves and muscles. Within 20 to 30 minutes, the first signs appear. Muscle weakness, blurry vision, difficulty speaking. Respiratory muscles begin to falter as the nervous system loses its ability to transmit signals. Paralysis advances from the extremities inward, and unless mechanical ventilation is applied, death arrives not with violence, but with suffocation. This delayed onset is especially insidious in remote diving environments. A diver who has been bitten may continue their activities, unaware of the ticking clock within their bloodstream. By the time symptoms are recognized, reaching medical care can become a race against biology, and in many cases, a losing one. Unlike other marine injuries, where pain serves as a useful alarm, the sea snake bite offers little in the way of early warning. And this silence is the reason it earns its name here, not for stealth in hunting, but for the quiet collapse it causes in its victims. Sea snakes feed primarily on fish and eels, and their venom is adapted for instant immobilization. Their prey must be stopped quickly before it escapes into the reef or crevice. To accomplish this, the venom is neurotoxic in the extreme, optimized for speed rather than spectacle. Once the bite is delivered, the snake does not hold on. It waits, often watching, as the paralysis takes effect. The hunting strategy is clean, efficient, and largely invisible.
And in this evolutionary arms race between predator and prey, the snake has honed a weapon that works too well, so powerful that a defensive nip given in fear can render a human motionless. Surprisingly, bites are rare, and fatalities even rarer. The fangs of most sea snake species are small and short, positioned at the front of the jaw. They are not designed to pierce thick skin or neoprene wetsuits. Most bites occur when fishermen handle nets or traps where snakes are tangled, or when they are accidentally grabbed or stepped on in murky shallows. The snakes do not seek conflict. They simply react to perceived threat with the only defense they possess, one that evolution did not scale for our size. In that mismatch lies the problem. A weapon meant for fish, when applied to humans, becomes catastrophic. The ecological role of sea snakes is often overlooked in discussions of marine predators. They are not apex hunters, nor scavengers, nor reef builders. They are precision feeders, selectively controlling populations of burrow-dwelling eels and reef fish. In regions like the Gulf of Thailand and northern Australia, their presence is both biologically significant and visually striking. Males patrol open reef channels during mating season, chasing females with synchronized, sinuous movements. Some species exhibit countershading, with lighter bellies and darker dorsal bands to confuse predators from above and below, an evolutionary strategy that parallels that of sharks, dolphins, and even seabirds. Yet they are not without their own predators. Sea eagles, sharks, and large predatory fish will consume them if given the chance. To defend themselves, sea snakes rely not on their venom, but on camouflage and avoidance. Their patterning mimics the dappled light of the reef. Their movement is graceful but economical, minimizing sound and displacement. Even their surfacing behavior is cautious, a brief gasp of air before vanishing again into the folds of the coral. In a world obsessed with what bites, stings, or swallows whole, the sea snake remains an enigma. It does not broadcast its danger with spines or claws. It does not roar, lunge, or shimmer with warning colors. It is quiet, controlled, calculated, and perhaps that is why its danger feels so intimate, because it doesn't feel like danger at all until it's far too late. The sea teaches this lesson often, that the most potent threats are rarely the loudest. In the case of the sea snake, it is the soft coil in the sand, the slow dance along a reef's edge, the brush of something smooth against a swimmer's arm, and then the silence that follows. A silence that reaches into your breath, your muscles, your heartbeat. And in that silence, a single truth emerges, that survival in the ocean does not always depend on teeth and speed. Sometimes it depends on chemistry, restraint, and the quiet certainty that if needed, one bite is all it takes. In the sunlit shallows of tropical coral reefs, where parrotfish crunch limestone and angelfish drift like painted leaves, a slow-moving silhouette emerges from beneath a ledge. It hovers, regal and composed, as if suspended by intention rather than buoyancy. Feathered fins spread like a lion's mane, delicate and symmetrical, trailing behind it with theatrical elegance. The lionfish, Pterois volitans, is not in a hurry. It doesn't need to be. It does not pursue. It performs. And yet behind the hypnotic curtain of striped plumes and graceful posture lies one of the ocean's most effective ambush predators, and one of its most painful mistakes for any human to touch. The lionfish is a contradiction crafted by evolution,
a visual masterpiece designed to broadcast a deadly message, though many fail to read the signs. Its long, venomous dorsal spines rise like antennae, fanned out to appear larger and more dangerous than its body truly is. Beneath those spines, it carries a suite of venom glands that deliver a neurotoxic sting when the tip pierces flesh. The pain is not immediate, but it builds, a pulsing, radiating ache that swells into a deep, burning throb. Victims describe the sensation as being stung by dozens of wasps at once, often accompanied by nausea, dizziness, and muscle weakness. The localized inflammation can last for days, and in rare cases, the systemic effects require hospitalization. Though not typically fatal, the experience is unforgettable, and for some, incapacitating. The venom itself is delivered through grooves in the spines, not injected like a syringe, but wicked into the wound when pressure is applied. Unlike snakes or scorpions that use venom offensively to subdue prey, lionfish venom is primarily defensive. It evolved not to kill, but to teach predators a single painful lesson: stay away. This is why the lionfish moves slowly and deliberately. Its aposematic coloration, those bold, alternating stripes of white, red, and brown, is a warning, advertising toxicity to would-be predators in the same way that poison dart frogs signal danger in the rainforest. But for humans unfamiliar with this code, its mesmerizing appearance can be mistaken for harmless beauty. In its native range, the Indo-Pacific, the lionfish plays a relatively modest ecological role. It preys on small reef fish and crustaceans, usually hunting at dawn and dusk by herding prey into confined spaces using its oversized pectoral fins. It then opens its mouth with lightning speed, creating a sudden vacuum that draws its victim in whole. The attack is swift, and the predator is often still in motion before the prey realizes it has disappeared. But within this ecosystem, the lionfish has natural predators, including large groupers, eels, and sharks, that help keep its numbers in check. In its home waters, it is part of a balanced system, a specialist among specialists. But elsewhere, the lionfish is something else entirely. In the early 90s, the lionfish appeared off the coast of Florida. Whether through aquarium releases, shipping transport, or storm damage, it entered the Atlantic, an ocean unprepared for its methods. With no native predators recognizing its warning coloration and no evolved resistance to its venom, the lionfish exploded in population. By 2010, it had spread throughout the Caribbean and much of the western Atlantic, reaching as far north as New York and as far south as Brazil. What followed was not a migration, it was a silent invasion. Lionfish are voracious. A single adult can consume over 50 fish in a day, targeting juvenile reef fish, shrimp, and other invertebrates vital to coral reef health. They are generalists in an ecosystem full of specialists, giving them a competitive edge. And they reproduce at astonishing rates. A single female lionfish can release up to 2 million eggs per year, carried on gelatinous rafts that drift with ocean currents and hatch within days. The larvae disperse widely, settling wherever conditions allow, and quickly establish new breeding populations. Their success is due not only to their reproductive capacity, but to their behavioral cunning. Lionfish use ambush tactics that outmatch many native species. They approach prey with deceptive calm, fanning their fins to block escape routes, then strike with explosive precision. Some even hunt cooperatively, herding fish into corners and taking turns feeding, a behavior rare among solitary reef predators. Ecologically, their impact has been devastating. Studies in parts of the Bahamas have documented a 90% decline in native reef fish biomass in areas with high lionfish densities. Species vital to reef cleaning, algae control, and coral health are disappearing, their populations suppressed by constant predation. The result is a destabilization of already vulnerable reef ecosystems, pushing them closer to collapse under the weight of warming seas, acidification, and pollution. In this sense, the lionfish is not just a predator, it is a pressure multiplier. For divers, the lionfish presents a subtler threat. Its slow movements can make it seem approachable, even tame. Curious snorkelers may reach out, photographers may close in for a shot, and spearfishers may underestimate its defensive reach. A sting often comes not from malice, but from a misplaced hand, a misjudged distance, or a surprise encounter beneath a coral shelf. And while fatalities are exceedingly rare, the experience is severe enough to incapacitate, leading to disorientation, panic, and, in extreme cases, drowning if the sting occurs underwater without rapid assistance. Managing the lionfish invasion has proven difficult. Efforts to train reef predators to consume them have failed. Native fish do not recognize them as food. Mechanical removal, divers spearing and capturing them, is the most effective method, but it is time-consuming and limited in reach. Some communities have turned to culinary solutions, promoting lionfish as a sustainable seafood option. Its meat is white, flaky, and non-toxic when properly prepared, offering a rare example of an ecological problem with an edible answer. Still, the broader lesson is one of ecological humility. A single species, displaced and unleashed, can tilt entire systems out of balance. The lionfish reminds us that evolution does not anticipate relocation, and that beauty, no matter how mesmerizing, can carry consequences far beyond the visible. In the quiet spaces of the reef, where sunlight filters through the sea like smoke through stained glass, the lionfish remains poised. Its spines shimmer. Its fins sway like banners in slow motion. And behind that elegance waits a mechanism of pain, evolved through millennia, not for conquest, but for caution. It doesn't chase. It doesn't flee. It waits, adorned in warning, confident in its defenses. Because here in the reef, where flash often means fire, the lionfish is not just a creature, it is a signal, one that says, beauty in nature is never harmless, and survival is often written in the sting. In the sun-drenched lagoons and shallow reef flats of the Indo-Pacific, where tide pools glisten like molten mirrors and every crevice hums with tension, a predator waits. Not in the open, not out in the chase, but deep inside the reef's architecture, burrowed beneath slabs of coral or nestled between sponge and rubble. Here, behind a veil of stillness, lives one of the most extreme biological weapons in the marine world. It carries no venom, wears no teeth, and lacks the size to inspire awe. Yet what it lacks in mass, it delivers in mechanical violence. The mantis shrimp, particularly the smasher type, is not just fast, it is catastrophic at close range. There are over 450 species of mantis shrimp, and they are neither true shrimp nor mantids. They are stomatopods, a distinct and ancient lineage of crustaceans with a fossil history stretching back over 400 million years. Among them, two primary hunting strategies have evolved: spearers, which use spiny appendages to impale soft-bodied prey, and smashers, which wield club-like limbs to bludgeon hard-shelled targets into submission. This chapter belongs to the latter. The smasher mantis shrimp, most famously Odontodactylus ciliarus, the peacock mantis shrimp, is a compact force of evolutionary over-engineering. It may grow to no more than 18 centimeters in length, but what it packs into those centimeters defies proportion. The raptorial appendages that fold beneath its thorax, resembling tiny fists, are built not just for striking, but for unleashing one of the fastest and most destructive blows in the animal kingdom. When triggered, these appendages accelerate forward at 80 kilometers per hour, fast enough to generate cavitation bubbles that briefly reach the temperature of the sun's surface. These bubbles collapse milliseconds after formation, adding a secondary shockwave to the physical strike. Prey, whether snail, crab, or unlucky tankmate, is hit twice, once by the limb itself, and once again by the force of physics catching up. The implications of this are not theoretical. Aquarium glass has shattered under the impact of a punch. Crustacean exoskeletons, evolved over millennia to resist predation, are obliterated in a single blow, and human fingers caught in the wrong place during a handling attempt have been fractured or lacerated with surgical precision. For this reason, many aquarists and marine researchers refuse to house smashers in glass tanks, opting instead for thick acrylic and reinforced walls, more to protect the facility than the creature itself. In the wild, this punch is not just a weapon. It is a ticket to access, to the meat hidden beneath shells, the calcium beneath coral, and the security of territory carved out with violence. But the strike is only part of the story. The mantis shrimp is not a brute. The mantis. It is an assassin with better eyesight than almost any other animal on Earth. Each compound eye is mounted on a mobile stalk, capable of independent movement. Within each eye, 3 separate regions scan for information, giving the animal trinocular vision from a single organ. It can see polarized light, both linear and circular, and detect ultraviolet wavelengths invisible to humans. It doesn't just see color, it reads it. It interprets texture and angle, It watches with an intensity that makes its punch not just powerful, but infallibly accurate. This vision serves multiple roles. In hunting, it allows the mantis shrimp to assess the armor of its prey, to locate joints, weak points, and vulnerabilities. It watches for the precise moment when an opponent's defenses shift, and then it acts with a speed that preempts reaction. In social behavior, it allows individuals to communicate with intricate body postures and ultraviolet patterns, warning rivals or attracting mates with signals invisible to other reef dwellers. It even uses polarized reflections to detect hidden prey beneath sediment or within burrows, tracking movements that would elude most predators entirely. Inside its territory, often a tunnel system beneath coral slabs, the mantis shrimp maintains order with brutal efficiency. Intruders are met with displays, antennae flared, claws spread, body elevated. If warnings are ignored, combat ensues, and the punch is deployed not to kill, but to drive away. Territorial disputes are resolved through force, and even larger rivals may retreat after tasting the full kinetic promise of a blow. The burrow is not just a home, it is a fortress, excavated, maintained, and defended with relentless precision. The creature's life revolves around control. Control of space, control of prey, control of confrontation. And yet, for all its aggression, the mantis shrimp is not reckless. It doesn't waste energy. It times its strikes. It calibrates its distance. It kills with purpose, not panic. In this way, it exists as a counterpoint to more chaotic predators, not pursuing, not thrashing, but calculating. It is an engineer of violence, a strategist of shattering. From an evolutionary standpoint, the mantis shrimp challenges the conventional idea that size equates to dominance. In its niche, feeding on mollusks, crustaceans, and the armored elite of the reef, it is unmatched. Other animals dig or pry or wait. The mantis shrimp solves its problems with one decisive hit, bypassing defense entirely. It short-circuits the arms race of exoskeletal fortification and renders it moot with a weapon that is, in effect, a living hammer. In the broader ecosystem, it plays an important regulatory role. By preying on grazers and smaller crustaceans, it influences algae dynamics and coral health. It also aerates the substrate through burrow construction, contributing to reef sediment cycling and microhabitat formation. And while it is preyed upon by larger fish, octopuses, and humans in some coastal regions, it is often avoided due to its armored exoskeleton and devastating counterattack potential. Even in human culture, the mantis shrimp has made its mark. Its biomechanics have inspired engineers studying shock absorption and impact-resistant materials. Its eyes have informed advances in optical sensor technology, and its behavior continues to fascinate researchers trying to unravel how such complexity evolved in so small a package. In the stillness of a reef morning, when parrotfish crunch coral and the sea carries only the sound of distant surf, there may be no sign of violence. No drama, just a shadow beneath a ledge. A flicker of green, a ripple of sand. And then, in an instant too quick to witness, a predator emerges, strikes and vanishes, leaving only fragments in its wake. Here, among the cracks of the coral kingdom, where silence often masks power, the mantis shrimp reigns. Not with size, not with venom, but with precision, with vision, with a punch that rewrites the rules of combat. It is not just the smasher. It is the proof that in nature, sometimes the smallest things hit hardest. The water is calm, glassy even. Above, the morning sun rests low on the horizon, its rays refracting into silver shards across the surface. Below, however, the light fades quickly into gradients of blue and then into something darker, colder, and infinitely more alert. The open ocean is not empty. It is vast, yes, but never still. And from that vastness, out beyond the limits of visibility, comes a shape built not just to survive in this space, but to define it. A torpedo of muscle and instinct, calibrated by millions of years of apex evolution. The great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, enters like a shadow that doesn't belong, silent and fast, its path precise and its purpose unclear, until it's too late. No other marine animal evokes the kind of visceral reaction humans have to the great white. It is not the largest shark in the ocean, nor the most aggressive across species lines. It does not stalk humans as prey. And yet, its presence triggers a primal awareness, Because it operates in a medium where we do not belong, where vision is limited, escape is clumsy, and the predator holds every advantage. The great white does not need to search for long. Its senses are tuned to a degree of biological sensitivity that borders on supernatural. A single drop of blood in tens of millions of liters of water can be detected. It smells not just blood, but stress, the amino acids that leach from a struggling fish, or the electromagnetic pulses emitted by the contraction of muscle and the beat of a mammal's heart. Along its snout, the ampullae of Lorenzini, gel-filled electroreceptors, allow it to read the electric field of living organisms. Eyes adapted to low light allow it to hunt upward, silhouetting its target against the pale shimmer of the surface. It does not need to see a swimmer's face to know that something is moving at the edge of its domain. It senses motion, displacement, vibration, shape, and then it tests. This is where the story of the drive-by begins, not as a hunt, but as an investigation. Great whites are tactile predators. Lacking hands or manipulable fins, they use their mouths to explore the world. What humans interpret as an attack is often a test bite, a momentary engagement meant to identify whether something is worth pursuing as food. Unfortunately, when the jaws of a 1,200-kilogram predator close around a human limb, momentary is irrelevant. The damage is already done. The shark's teeth, triangular, serrated, and ever-replenishing, function more like saws than scalpels. They don't just puncture, they tear. When a great white bites, it does not aim for clean cuts. It thrashes, pivots its head side to side, and removes mass. It can remove up to 10 kilograms of flesh in a single bite. For seals and large tuna, this strategy is brutally efficient. For humans, it is catastrophic. The test bite often ends the encounter. The shark, determining its target is not energetically profitable, will swim away. But the wound left behind is more than enough to bring about unconsciousness from blood loss in minutes. Even survivors frequently lose limbs, suffer massive tissue trauma, and endure months or years of psychological and physiological recovery. And this happens not from a sustained pursuit, but from a single exploratory moment. High-profile attacks have etched this pattern into public consciousness. In California, South Africa, Australia, regions with cold, nutrient-rich waters and dense seal populations, the overlap between surfers and sharks increases. From below, a human paddling on a surfboard bears a striking silhouette to a seal. The shark approaches from the deep, launches upward with violent speed, and delivers a bite before retreating. This breaching behavior, common during seal hunts, underscores how adapted the great white is to ambush. It can launch its entire body out of the water, jaws open, gaining speed from deep, rapid strokes of the caudal fin. The prey, if correctly identified, rarely escapes. And yet the great white is not reckless. It does not waste energy. Its metabolic strategy, though partially warm-bodied, a rare trait among fish that allows for sustained speed and wider temperature tolerance, still demands efficiency. It cannot afford to pursue every possible meal. It must choose carefully, and the test bite is part of that strategy. It learns from the reaction, the texture, the taste. And unlike many predators, it has the luxury of walking away, metaphorically speaking, if the meal is not worth the effort. Ecologically, the great white plays a crucial role in maintaining marine balance. As a top predator, it helps regulate populations of seals, rays, and other mid-level predators, indirectly supporting reef health and biodiversity. Its presence influences the behavior of prey species, a phenomenon known as the ecology of fear, forcing them to adapt their foraging, movement, and reproductive strategies in response to predation risk. This top-down pressure keeps ecosystems dynamic and resilient. Remove the apex predator, and the cascade begins. Overgrazing of key species, collapse of coral systems, and the slow unraveling of biological complexity. Surprisingly, very little is known about the full migratory patterns of great whites. Tagged individuals have been recorded traveling thousands of kilometers across open ocean, diving to depths exceeding 1,000 meters. They navigate across entire basins, yet return to predictable aggregation points near coastlines. These migrations remain one of the great mysteries of shark ecology. Some hypothesize mating grounds, others point to following prey biomass. What is clear is that these animals are not mindless drifters. They are navigators. They have territories. They remember. The human fascination with great whites is matched only by the difficulty of studying them. Their size, power, and mobility make controlled observation challenging, and their rarity in most regions means encounters, even among researchers, are fleeting. Much of what we know comes from forensic analysis of bites, satellite tagging, and baited remote underwater video systems. Yet, even this data tells us something profound. The majority of great white encounters with humans do not result in bites. The shark sees, senses, approaches, and leaves. The drive-by that never happens. But when it does, the results become legend. Not because the shark intended to kill, but because we are fragile in a realm where fragility is punished. The sea is not forgiving, and the creatures that dominate its hierarchy are not concerned with fairness. They are concerned with survival, with energy, with instinct sharpened into habit. And when instinct meets uncertainty, the great white bites, not in hunger but in caution. It is this uncertainty that terrifies us, that even without malice, the ocean's apex predator can change a life in a single second, that it does not need to chase us, that it might not even care. It merely investigates. And that is enough. In the fluid blue silence where light fades and outlines blur, a shape circles from below. A test is coming. Not a chase, not a hunt, just a moment. Teeth, motion, muscle, and then nothing. Because in the world of the great white, the first bite is often the last thing you'll remember. In the sun-drenched clarity of tropical shallows, where coral heads cast shifting shadows across the seafloor and sunlight fractures into bright columns that seem to hold the sea aloft, a silver blade hovers in place. Sleek, streamlined, and almost motionless, the barracuda appears at first to be just another reef-side fish, a reflective shape drifting through light. But this stillness is not calm. It is calculation. In a world of color, movement, and soft-bodied distractions, the barracuda is something else entirely, a weapon designed to wait. Barracuda is not a single species, but a family, Sphaerenidae, with over 20 representatives scattered across the warm seas of the globe. The great barracuda, Sphaerena barracuda, is the most infamous among them, and for good reason. Reaching lengths of up to 2 meters and armed with 2 rows of dagger-like teeth, this predator is a master of ambush. It does not chase its prey over long distances. Instead, it relies on the perfect intersection of acceleration, precision, and surprise. And when it moves, the transformation is instantaneous. From floating needle to kinetic torpedo, capable of reaching speeds of 55 kilometers per hour in a burst. The ocean around it seems to snap in half, but for all its violent potential, the barracuda is often overlooked by divers and swimmers. It lacks the exaggerated menace of a shark, the colorful poison warnings of a lionfish, or the slow intimidation of a moray eel. It does not telegraph its intent. Its behavior in most cases is passive and curious. This quiet approachability is deceptive, not because the fish hides malice, but because its method of hunting leaves no room for error. To a barracuda, the world is divided not by species, but by motion, contrast, and shimmer. Its vision is excellent in low light and adapted to detect the smallest flickers of movement across the reef, the dart of a wounded fish, the glint of exposed scale, or, tragically, the glimmer of a diver's silver ring. This misunderstanding of context is what lies behind most barracuda attacks on humans. The predator is not hunting people. It is reacting to cues its brain has been wired over millennia to trust. In the confusion of surf, sand, and sunlight, a metallic reflection near the hand or foot of a snorkeler can appear nearly identical to the flash of a struggling baitfish. And once the signal is processed, the strike is reflexive, a 1-second calculation with no room for reconsideration. The result is typically a single bite, but its consequences are not minor. Barracuda teeth are not serrated, but they are razor-sharp and interlocking, designed to slice rather than crush. Their jaws are powerful enough to shear through the spines of armored prey and deliver clean cuts into dense tissue. For a human, the outcome is often catastrophic lacerations, exposed tendons, and sometimes even the complete removal of soft tissue. The speed of the attack adds a layer of psychological trauma for survivors. It is over before they understand it has begun. Many report never seeing the fish at all, only the pressure, the blood, and the aftermath. What makes this all the more unsettling is how surgically efficient barracudas can be. They rarely need a second strike. In their natural prey, mullet, jacks, grunts, the first bite incapacitates or kills outright. Their feeding strategy is based on ambush from below or behind, where vision is weakest and escape paths are limited. In these moments, They rely on ballistic acceleration, striking with such force that prey often has no time to react. This success has earned them a dominant role in many reef and lagoon ecosystems, where they regulate the populations of smaller fish and enforce spatial discipline on schooling species. Their presence causes behavioral changes in other fish, forcing them into tighter shoals or driving them to relocate. This is apex ecology at its most subtle, dominance without display. Despite their fearsome image, barracudas are not territorial. They are opportunists, often solitary as adults and nomadic in behavior. Juveniles, on the other hand, school for protection, growing rapidly in mangrove nurseries and sheltered bays before heading into the open reef. Adults range widely, moving between reef flats, drop-offs, and open water hunting grounds, depending on current, prey density, and seasonal factors. They are temperature sensitive and generally prefer warm, clear water, which helps explain their association with snorkelers and swimmers in tropical tourism zones. Some myths about barracudas have lingered in popular culture, that they are inherently aggressive, that they are drawn to the smell of blood like sharks, or that they seek to attack out of hostility. In reality, their threat to humans lies almost entirely in misidentification. Their world is one of instinctual heuristics, not intention. They do not hunt with malice. They react with efficiency, and that efficiency, when misdirected, can be unforgiving. Another lesser-known danger associated with barracudas is ciguatera poisoning. Because they feed high on the food chain, barracudas can accumulate toxins produced by dinoflagellates that grow on algae in coral reef ecosystems. These toxins are not destroyed by cooking, and when humans consume infected barracuda meat, they can suffer from severe gastrointestinal and neurological symptoms, including temperature reversal, muscle aches, and even hallucinations. In some regions, barracuda are avoided entirely as a food source, not because of their bite, but because of their biochemistry. Despite all of this, the barracuda occupies an essential niche in coral reef and open ocean ecosystems. It is not just a hunter, but a pressure point, an enforcer of movement, a sculptor of behavior. It filters weakness from prey populations, drives school dynamics, and provides a key link between reef biomass and pelagic predation. In the long evolutionary story of reef predation, it represents speed incarnate, a creature that commits entirely to the moment, winning through timing rather than brute force. In the underwater stillness of a reef edge, where shadows stretch and scatter and the light plays tricks with your senses, there is often a pause, a moment when everything seems frozen, as if the ocean itself is holding its breath. It is in this pause that the barracuda acts. A flicker, a flash, a single heartbeat, and the hunter disappears as quickly as it came. Because in the domain of the barracuda, survival is a matter of milliseconds, and mistakes, whether made by fish or human, are paid for in flesh. At the brackish boundary between land and sea, where freshwater rivers braid themselves into coastal estuaries and mangrove roots clutch the soft banks like grasping fingers, the illusion of safety runs thick. The water here is often still, murky from suspended sediments, littered with drifting leaves and fallen branches. Birds wheel overhead, fish ripple near the surface, and the scent of damp vegetation hangs in the air like steam. It is a place where many species congregate, where freshwater and saltwater species meet, where nutrients flow in from both upstream forests and offshore currents. But for all its life, this ecosystem also hosts a silence that is more than just quiet. It is the silence of absence, the kind of silence that follows disappearance. Lurking in that silence, invisible just below the surface, waits the saltwater crocodile, Crocodilus porosus, Earth's largest living reptilian predator, and arguably its most patient killer. It does not patrol its territory with thunderous violence or bold presence. It slips beneath water, nose and eyes barely exposed, and listens. Watches, waits, not for hours, but sometimes for days, motionless in the shallows, tucked beneath overhanging brush or wedged into tidal crevices. The crocodile's strategy is not pursuit, it is precision ambush, and when it moves, it does so with a speed and violence that defy its bulk. 100 kilograms of pressure per square centimeter behind every tooth. Nearly a ton of muscle launched in a single explosive burst. The saltwater crocodile is not only the largest of its kind, with adult males regularly surpassing 5 meters in length and occasionally approaching 7, but also the most territorially aggressive. It dominates not just estuaries, but also coastal bays, tidal rivers, and even open ocean stretches, a feat enabled by its remarkable salt gland adaptations, which allow it to excrete excess salt and survive in full marine environments. This makes it uniquely amphibious among apex predators, not tied exclusively to land or sea, but a sovereign hunter of both. Underwater, the crocodile becomes a phantom. It glides with minimal movement, limbs pressed close, using its powerful tail as a rudder and engine. Its body is armored, not just in rough scales, but in osteoderms, bony deposits beneath the skin that function like chainmail, absorbing force and protecting vital organs. Its heart is capable of shunting blood away from the lungs during dives, and it can remain submerged without surfacing for air for over an hour. Coupled with near-total stillness, this renders the crocodile almost undetectable, not by prey, and often not even by researchers tracking it. Attacks on humans typically follow a narrow, ancient script. A footstep near the waterline, a boat disembarkation, a moment of complacency during fishing, bathing, or crossing shallow streams. In many of these cases, the crocodile has already been watching. It strikes not at random, but with shocking intentionality, aiming for the upper limb, torso, or head, with the goal of disabling the victim instantly. The jaws close, and the victim is pulled under in one uninterrupted motion. This is where the death roll begins. The death roll is not a flourish. It is a physiological tool, a mechanical method of tearing flesh, removing limbs, or disorienting prey beyond resistance. The crocodile initiates it by locking its jaws and twisting its own body rapidly along its axis, using its heavy tail as a lever. The forces exerted during this motion are enough to snap bones, dislocate joints, or rip off entire limbs, especially in softer-skinned animals like deer, water buffalo, or humans. It is not designed for efficiency. It is designed for finality. Once the roll has completed its work, the crocodile will often stash the body beneath submerged roots or rocks, anchoring it for later consumption. This technique, known as larder caching, allows the animal to eat safely and undisturbed over the course of several days. It is also a chilling reminder that these predators are not only opportunistic feeders, but planners, capable of restraint, deferred gratification, and habitat manipulation. They are not brutes, they are tacticians. What makes the saltwater crocodile particularly dangerous is not just its physical power, but the human tendency to underestimate its reach. People wade into estuaries assuming the threat lies in the deeper water, but crocodiles can strike in less than half a meter of depth. Others believe the animals are confined to specific regions, unaware that individuals have been documented swimming hundreds of kilometers along coastlines or between island chains. In northern Australia, Southeast Asia, and parts of India, fatal encounters are not rare anomalies. They are annual realities, and the bodies, when recovered, often show the same marks: punctures from conical teeth, flesh torn in spirals, and wounds consistent with torsional trauma. Despite their aggression, saltwater crocodiles are not mindless killers. Their behavior is shaped by ecological necessity. In environments where tides rise and fall dramatically, where prey species are migratory or seasonal, and where habitat shifts constantly between drought and flood, patience becomes currency. A crocodile may eat only a few large meals per month, relying on fat stores and an incredibly efficient metabolism to survive between kills. It does not waste energy chasing. It waits for the moment when escape is impossible, when the animal comes to it. And if that animal is a human, the result is not hesitation. It is an instant of pure predatory commitment. The presence of crocodiles also influences the landscape far beyond the moment of the strike. Their predation shapes animal behavior in riparian zones, affecting where water buffalo graze, where monkeys drink, where birds nest. In this way, the crocodile helps maintain the integrity of both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems, regulating populations and dispersing nutrients through carrion consumption. The carcasses they leave behind feed fish, turtles, and even scavenging birds, creating micro-ecosystems within the larger estuarine web. For thousands of years, local communities have lived with and around this predator. Indigenous knowledge systems often include strict taboos about where and when to approach water, rituals to appease crocodile spirits, or practical strategies like fencing, elevated walkways, and designated bathing zones. In modern times, however, this coexistence is strained. As human populations grow and settlements press deeper into estuarine habitats, the boundaries that once defined safety blur. Crocodiles are removed, relocated, or culled, sometimes in response to attacks, sometimes preemptively. Yet they persist, because in the calculus of evolution, they are already perfect. They do not need to adapt again. They have reached a form that survives not through change, but through control. In the mud-dark waters of the estuary, beneath the gentle lapping of tide against mangrove root and the shimmer of sun-washed leaves, the predator waits. It sees without moving, it breathes without sound, without. And when the moment arrives, when prey forgets that the water holds consequence, it explodes into a violence that feels like the earth itself turning inside out. It is not the chase that kills, it is the stillness before it. The mistake of believing the surface is calm, when below it waits the executioner of the edge, scaled, armored, and ancient beyond imagination. In the coral gardens and tide-washed lagoons of the Indo-Pacific, where the water gleams with crystalline clarity and life moves in brilliant color along the sea floor, a small, round-eyed creature paddles awkwardly across the reef. It appears more curious than cautious, its fins fluttering like tiny fans, its face fixed in a permanent look of surprise. To the untrained eye, this is comedy in motion, a bloated, slow-moving ball among a sea of elegance and speed. But that disarming appearance conceals a biological paradox. The pufferfish, one of the most lethal animals in the ocean, survives not by violence but by manipulation of predators, of chemistry, and increasingly of humans. There are over 120 species of pufferfish belonging to the family Tetrodontidae, and while their appearances vary, their defense strategy is fundamentally consistent. When threatened, they do not flee. They inflate. By rapidly gulping water, or air if out of water, they expand their elastic stomachs to many times their normal volume, transforming from a sleek-bodied fish into a spiked, spherical deterrent. This inflation is not mere spectacle, it's survival. The sudden increase in size makes the puffer nearly impossible to swallow, and in many species, sharp spines embedded in the skin emerge during inflation, turning the animal into a floating sea mine. But it is not the inflation that makes the pufferfish deadly. It is what comes after the bite, or even a brush against the wrong tissue. Laced within the skin, liver, ovaries, and occasionally muscle tissue of many puffer species is a compound so potent, so unrelenting in its effects, that it ranks among the most powerful neurotoxins known to science. Tetrodotoxin, a non-protein heat-stable molecule, is estimated to be up to 1,200 times more toxic than cyanide, and there is no known antidote. It targets the voltage-gated sodium channels in nerve membranes, blocking the electrical impulses required for muscle movement. In effect, it shuts down the body's communication system, beginning with tingling in the lips and fingertips, followed by dizziness, nausea, muscle paralysis, and ultimately, respiratory failure. Ingesting even a tiny amount, as little as 2 milligrams, can be fatal to an adult human. Victims often remain fully conscious as the paralysis progresses, aware of their inability to move, breathe, or speak. Death, when it comes, arrives silently, and the toxin's onset is fast. Symptoms may begin within 20 minutes of exposure, and unless artificial respiration is initiated quickly, survival is unlikely. The irony is cruel. The puffer does not use this toxin as a weapon. It does not inject, sting, or deliver venom. Its deadliness is passive, a biochemical defense designed not to kill, but to convince predators that the next attempt will be their last. Yet humans, ever drawn to danger in disguise, have found ways to turn even this warning into temptation. In Japan, the preparation of fugu, a delicacy made from pufferfish, has become both cultural tradition and culinary roulette. Only licensed chefs, trained for years and subject to rigorous testing, are allowed to serve it. Even so, deaths have occurred. In some cases, chefs failed to properly remove toxic organs. In others, illicit sales bypassed safety protocols. The result: diners rendered paralyzed, rushed to hospitals, ventilated in hope that their bodies would outlast the toxin's timeline. Some lived. Others became statistics in one of the few culinary traditions where failure may mean fatality. What makes the presence of tetrodotoxin in pufferfish even more intriguing is that the fish themselves may not produce it. Evidence suggests the toxin originates from symbiotic bacteria, Pseudomonas and Vibrio species, which the fish acquire through their diet. This implies that pufferfish raised in captivity without exposure to natural prey often contain little or no tetrodotoxin, while wild-caught individuals may be lethally toxic. In ecological terms, this opens fascinating questions about how food webs contribute to toxicity, and whether other reef organisms, nudibranchs, flatworms, blue-ringed octopuses, which also contain tetrodotoxin, share a microbial source. The pufferfish, therefore, is more than just a passive survivor. It is an ecosystem translator, absorbing microbial defenses and integrating them into a system that makes it both immune and protected. To the reef, it is both prey and poison, a creature that must be handled delicately or not at all. Despite their awkward appearance, pufferfish are intelligent and observant. In captivity, they demonstrate problem-solving skills, learning to recognize their caretakers and even navigating simple puzzles to access food. In the wild, they exhibit exploratory behaviors, often investigating divers and other unfamiliar entities with cautious curiosity. This intelligence is matched by surprising anatomical features. Their teeth, actually fused dental plates, continuously grow and form a beak-like structure used to crush the hard shells of mollusks, crustaceans, and coral-dwelling invertebrates. They are not fast swimmers, but their diet requires dexterity and precision, giving them a niche among slow, deliberate foragers in high-competition environments. Their slow movement is deceptive in another way. It contributes to a psychological trap. Predators often interpret sluggishness as weakness, interpreting the fish's ungainly motion as an invitation. The initial bite, however, delivers a lesson that most predators only need once. In controlled studies, fish that survive a puffer encounter often develop a long-term aversion not just to puffers, but to similarly shaped or moving prey items. In this way, the pufferfish leverages memory, not just pain, as a defense mechanism, ensuring that its kind are rarely targeted more than once in any given ecosystem. Yet the danger to humans persists not only through culinary misadventures, but occasionally through direct contact. Divers who handle pufferfish, especially when the fish is inflated, risk exposure through skin abrasions or contact with mucous membranes. There are recorded cases of individuals falling ill after merely touching the skin or cleaning contaminated surfaces. Even in death, the puffer's body remains hazardous. The toxin degrades slowly, retaining its potency for hours, even days after the fish has expired. And yet, like so many reef species armed with deadly defenses, the pufferfish is not an aggressor. It does not stalk. It does not strike. It does not need to. Its threat lies in the assumption of safety, the belief that something small and round and slow cannot possibly be lethal. It is the danger that wears innocence like a mask. In the complex ecology of coral reefs, where life is a balancing act between brilliance and brutality, the pufferfish occupies a space both literal and symbolic. It is a soft body in a hard world, relying not on armor or speed, but on reputation. A lesson etched not in scars, but in silence. A single encounter is often enough, and for those who don't live to remember, their mistake becomes warning for others. As the tide rises and the reef begins to shimmer beneath the late morning sun, the puffer paddles by once more, its face wide-eyed, its pace unhurried, its shadow gentle against the sand. To most, it is just another piece of reef mosaic. But beneath that surface lies a threat more potent than any tooth or spine. Because in the ocean, it's not always the predator that kills. Sometimes it's the one you thought wouldn't. Beneath the blue veil that cloaks 70% of our planet lies a kingdom shaped by absence, of sound, of warning, of mercy. It is a world where survival does not roar, it whispers. A world where the most dangerous beings do not advertise their presence with size or fury, but with precision, stillness, and biological finesse. Across its coral gardens, murky estuaries, and open pelagic expanses, the ocean is not ruled by speed alone or strength in numbers. It is ruled by silence, and within that silence, life endures by becoming something sharp, something efficient, something unseen, or better yet, unnoticed. Over the course of this journey through marine lethality, we have encountered animals that embody the many faces of danger. Each one represents a different evolutionary answer to the same ancient question. How does one survive in a world where everything wants to eat? or be eaten. Some, like the stonefish, have mastered the art of invisibility, not through transparency, but by becoming indistinguishable from the world around them. The stonefish does not move, because movement invites detection. It does not threaten, because threat invites escalation. Instead, it becomes substrate, a toxic stone among pebbles, its dorsal spines primed with venom so potent that one misstep can end a life. And yet, it does not pursue. It waits. So too does the saltwater crocodile, though with a mind centuries older and far more calculating. Its stillness is not camouflage alone, but psychological warfare, an apex reptile lying just beneath the estuarine surface, its patience spanning tides and hours. When it moves, it does not miss. With a skull built to deliver crushing trauma and a body that can rotate like a drill, it kills not out of appetite, but out of inevitability. It is the executioner of the mangroves, the closing bracket at the water's edge. Others defend with chemistry rather than concealment. The box jellyfish is a creature of translucence and death, its delicate frame a ruse for its neurotoxic wrath. It carries venom not to disable, but to shut down, the human nervous system collapsing in minutes under a dose evolution honed for fish and crustaceans, but no less devastating to mammals who blunder into its path. Like many of the ocean's killers, it offers no sound, no signal, just a touch. And then a cascade of pain. Similarly, the sea snake, whose coils glide silently through reef and lagoon, wields venom far more toxic than any land serpent. It does not advertise its power, nor does it frequently use it. A single bite, if delivered properly, does not sting. It paralyzes. Muscle by muscle, breath by breath, the body ceases to function. And yet the snake itself remains almost docile, its lethality born not of aggression, but of efficiency. The lionfish, in contrast, invites the eye. It is beautiful, ornate, mesmerizing, and laced with venomous spines that punish contact with searing, lingering pain. It does not chase its enemies, nor does it outswim predators. It relies instead on the principle that beauty and danger often walk hand in hand in evolutionary design. Its rapid expansion across foreign reefs has proven how destructive such beauty can be when introduced into systems without natural checks. Then there is the pufferfish, the ocean's paradox, harmless in demeanor, lethal in composition. Its defense is not to attack, but to become inedible, inflated, bristled, and full of tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin so powerful that it kills through touch, through taste, through curiosity. It is the only killer on this list that can strike from beyond the grave, its toxin lingering long after the body has stilled. Still others embody a more misunderstood threat, the threat of mistaken identity. The great white shark, often demonized as a mindless man-eater, typically bites not out of hunger but confusion. It is a creature of sensory perfection, able to detect electromagnetic fields and smell blood from kilometers away. But in turbid waters, with a surfer silhouetted against the sun, mistakes happen. And when a 600-kilogram predator decides to test what you are, the results are often permanent. The barracuda plays a similar role, its danger amplified by its own optical adaptations. Attracted to flash and motion, it strikes with a speed so sudden that the victim often doesn't know what happened. Its teeth, razor-like and forward-facing, deliver devastating slashes. In many cases, it is not the intent to harm. It is the inability to tell what is safe to attack. And in nature, hesitation is more dangerous than error. Then we come to the mantis shrimp, the only killer here whose deadliness is mechanical, not chemical or behavioral. This crustacean does not sting, it punches, with the force of a bullet, at speeds that create cavitation bubbles and secondary shock waves. It dismantles shells, glass, bone, not with size but with perfect aim and biomechanical power. It is a living weapon, evolved not to threaten, but to break. Across all these creatures, a common thread emerges. They are not evil. They are not malevolent. They do not kill for pleasure or for vengeance. They are expressions of need. Need to feed, need to protect, need to endure in ecosystems defined by scarcity and competition. Their strategies are not chosen. They are inherited, each a sharpened solution passed down by countless generations of trial and error. And the true danger to humans is not that these creatures are hunting us, it's that they aren't. They exist entirely outside our narratives, our ethics, our sense of fairness. We are incidental, a mistaken seal, a curious touch, a foot where it shouldn't be. Their defenses were not made for us, but when they touch us, we feel the full consequence of biological misalignment. In the ocean, the deadliest animals do not announce themselves. They do not stalk like lions or roar like bears. They don't chase. They wait. And in that waiting lies the lesson of the sea, because the greatest threat in these waters is not the predator you see coming. It's the one you never noticed until it was already too late.